The Jesus that we do not know, Jesus that we think we know and we do not know. So, this little brief homily by your friend Paul Lennon here on the terrace of my Guatemala home. If you see a light shining on me, like like an aureola, uh, that's just it's not real. I mean to say, it's not real. It's just a figment of your imagination. But this is the second Sunday of Advent for Catholics, anyway. Supposedly, we're getting to know Jesus Christ, and this little homily, as I was saying, is good for anybody who believes to some extent in the historical Jesus, which is where I always begin my meditations from, or my considerations from, or my belief from. Anyway, this is we are going to observe Jesus as he observes people. So, and this is the Gospel of Mark, which is, you might say, my favorite gospel because it's very concrete. We see a very human Jesus there. And I believe that you have to get from the human to the divine if you want to go that far. But anyway, here we go. Um, and I was saying in Spanish a while ago that uh, we don't really know Jesus because we never read the Gospels, by yourself, the Gospels. And people never think of that, like we want the Bible and then we have the Old Testament and the New Testament. We get lost in all these books, but you could buy just the Gospels if you so wanted. I'm sure you can get it in any bookstore. And then if you really want to be a little bit obsessive about it, you might buy the Gospel that the church suggests we read during the year, our liturgical year, which already began last Sunday, the first Sunday in Advent. So every year there's like one evangelist, excuse me, who is featured. And this is done on purpose so that, we Catholics are, we get to know our faith a little bit better, or we get to know Jesus a little bit better. He's the meaning. He's everything. He's the center of our faith. So this is important. Anyway, we have been reading during this past year, you might say, the Gospel of Mark, and this Sunday, in particular, we return to Mark, which is fantastic. I'm spouting out of me before getting to where we want to go. Excuse me. Gospel of Mark. I'm quoting scripture here now loud. It's chapter 12, around verses 40 or whatever it is. Jesus, he sat down opposite the treasury in the temple and watched the people putting money into the treasury. And many of the rich put in a great deal. A poor widow came and put in 2 small coins, the equivalent of a penny. Then he called his disciples and said to them, "In truth, I tell you, this poor widow has put more in than all who have contributed to the treasury. For they have all put in money they could spare, but she in her poverty has put in everything she possessed, all she had to live on." This is my favorite version of the Bible, for you guys anyway, the scriptures. But here's our little meditation. So just observing Jesus. Is this the human side of Jesus? As I say, we our faith is very childish sometimes. So, here in Latin America, I hear women talking about how attractive Jesus is. He's a really good-looking Jesus. Gospels doesn't say whether Jesus was ugly or he was fair or he was anything. He doesn't say anything about his physical appearance. So much for Hollywood, the Ten Commandments. no, whatever that was, no, uh, Jesus of Nazareth. Anyway, but it's nothing to do with that. You have to see what this person is about. Take him as a wise person, as a um, teacher, rabbi, which is what his disciples called him at the beginning because they didn't know what he was, didn't know where he was going. He was teaching. Well, just as this, look at this human person that presented to us, and we know Jesus was, hanging out with his disciples. They were hanging out with him, and sometimes he told the parables to explain things to the people, simple things, and sometimes he might do a miracle or do something special to heal somebody, right? Uh, Sometimes he was teaching. Um, he was giving the actually maybe even some discourse. The parables are very famous, which we've all heard about. But in this particular case, Jesus is just hanging out with his disciples, and he goes to the temple, you know, to the church, shall we say, and he sits down. No, she doesn't go up to the altar and start saying mass or anything like that. He hadn't invented the mass yet, so he, right, he didn't go up there. He didn't start go up and giving a big sermon from the pulpit or something like that. No, he sits down with it. It says he sat down opposite the treasury. He wants to observe. Just kind of taking it easy, Jesus, and just watching what's going on. We say people watching. Yeah, so Jesus is people watching, and what's going on here? Uh, People are coming with their offerings, so they have their money, their coins. We assume these are metal coins that were used at the time, and he's rich people come and maybe I don't know where they have them, like in bags. They have bags full of money or boxes full of money, and they just throw them into the treasury, which I'm assuming is like a hole in the ground or something. I don't know. Uh, and making a lot of noise and so forth, and then just watching Jesus, just watching. So we're invited in this particular reading just to watch Jesus watching people. You don't have to do anything else. Just let it be. Just watch. Uh, and then for some reason, then out of the corner of his eye, he sees this little woman, this little poor woman coming up. And how does he know she's poor? Ah, because he's God. I don't know, because he had a pair of eyes like we have, and she's not very well dressed. She's not a la mode. She's not making a fashion statement, shall we say. You can see from her clothing that she's a relatively poor person. Um, Maybe an older woman. You said she's a widow, and the Jews mention the widow. The widow is mentioned in the Old Testament too, and a good, pious Jewish person was supposed to take care of the widows because they were needy, and that's part of their religion was to do that. So Jesus would be attentive to that. He would have noticed this poor woman coming in, and he notices the way she comes in and kind of slips her two little pennies. Uh, little copper coins into the treasury when all the others have made their tinkles tremendous, with their silver and gold and God knows what. And so then he, talks. He brings over his disciples. Have you been watching this? Have you seen what's going on here? Have you noticed the widow? You notice the way the widow she kind of came in very, very, very discreetly, and didn't want to be noticed, and because she was ashamed of the little money that she was giving. She was embarrassed. And have you noticed that? And then, of course, the rabbi Yeshua gives his little lesson to the boys. Okay, have you noticed this? So you saw the rich people coming in, then you saw this. Well, I'll tell you something, that this poor widow, has given more than all the rest, because they gave from their abundance. What was what they had? What does it say here? Excuse me. See, sorry again. Uh, for they have all put in money they could spare, but she in her poverty has put in everything. Very moving, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe you're not, so mushy as I am, but this is very moving. But she, in her poverty, has put in everything she possessed, all she had to live on. Yeah. As the fella said, we used to say, put that in your pipe and smoke it until the next time.